Alrighty, welcome to Unleashed and Stoppable Show, episode number 2. My name is Todd Pierce.
And my name's Dean Martin.
And look, we are back in the saddle again. We made it back on the horse. And the good news is that the episode we did last week actually worked, which makes me...
Did. Recorded well, there was sound, it was crisp.
I'll be honest, there was a slight delay between the video and the audio. If you were just listening to this on a podcast in regards to the audio, then you didn't have any issue. But believe me, actually syncing it up was a pain in the ass, man.
Oh.
You don't know nothing about it.
No. Nothing.
Anyway, look, I hope your day, your week, your month, your whatever, whenever you listen to this or watching this, has been going well. And today's episode, what we want to discuss is we're going to keep this one a little bit more short, a little bit more compact. But this one here, what we want to talk about today is the curse of labels and expectations.
The curse. Ooh.
Put some music in there to make it kind of be ominous. But look, this episode kind of came to mind from a couple of things. Number one, yesterday or the day before, we rerun our one-day event that we do every couple of months, where we get people in a room for 7 hours and we help them develop a strong mindset, develop emotional resilience, and really overcome their fears. And I was chatting with a couple of people that really I felt were conforming to labels and expectations. And you didn't chat to these ones. I chat to some of these ones individually. They got caught me on the brakes. It's on the brakes, by the way, when you're presenting and you're just giving your all, you have a little 15-minute break or something like that, or we did 5-minute breaks. But you just want to defrag for a second and they get you, corner you. It's all right. If you corner me, I don't really mind.
He's free. Get him. Go on, get him.
But what I was hearing were people that were having issues with expectations that people project onto them. And I really want to talk about that today because it's so interesting, right? What we think about, what we believe, what we expect of other people, and you'll agree with this too because you've seen it a lot too. But what we expect of other people tends to manifest, right? And it doesn't just happen in regards to what we expect of other people, it also happens the other way. So other people's expectations projected onto us can have us behaving in ways that aren't necessarily aligned with who we really are, who we really want to be, the future that we want to live, and everything like that. So that's why I want to talk about this today, because once again, for a long time, I mentioned this in the previous episode. When I was younger, I was diagnosed with ADHD, right? And I was diagnosed with that when I was 5 years old. And it's really, really interesting as I sit here thinking about it. But so much, I would use being ADHD as an excuse for bad behavior.
Yeah, right.
Do you know anybody like that?
Yes, most definitely do, and it's the terms that are thrown around very loosely these days, aren't they?
Oh, don't even get me started on it. We'll say about ADHD for another episode. Yeah. But it's not just me. I know a number of people, right? I got a mate, right, and he's exactly this, and he's still right now when he's definitely beyond his 20s. He still uses ADHD as an excuse for bad behavior. And that's exact. And once again, whether you're listening or watching this, if you believe that ADHD is some real chronic bad thing, well, sure, great, that's okay. Maybe a small percentage of people do have it, but I think that it's overdiagnosed massively. I also think that it's overdiagnosed massively for men, hence why there's more men that are diagnosed with ADHD than women. And I think that as we get labeled with things, that we can use that as an excuse for bad behavior. We can use that as an excuse for not progressing in life. We can use that as an excuse to be a victim. And once again, I make this assertion not from the fence or from theory or from reading from a book, but I make that assertion because that's exactly what I did. And I don't know if you're listening this or you're watching this right now, if you've been in a similar situation to this, but it happens so often, and we have to be really cautious of the labels and the expectations that are circulating around us, right? From 0 to 7, let's just talk about developmental periods, shall we? From 0 to 7 are really, really important periods of time in our development, right? So from 0 to 7, it's commonly considered to be the time where we're most impressionable especially our unconscious minds, right? So from 0 to 7 is called
like a sponge.
Yeah, man. It's called your imprint period. And like this is a period of time where you're going around and you're absorbing all the things, right? All the things from all the people around you. Now, most often we're absorbing the values, the beliefs, the labels, and everything like that from our mother, our father, our aunties, uncles, the close family unit, right? And what's really, really important in respect to yourself and your personal growth, if you're feeling stuck right now, like things aren't going right, what's really important is like, well, you have to take a second and go, hang on a second. Well, what are the current things that are holding me back right now? Like, what are the limitations? And this takes self-reflection. This takes you stopping for a minute and having a look at yourself, right? Looking inward, which sometimes is scary because, like, if you were anything like me, then you had some stuff in there that maybe isn't the nicest. I definitely did. Like, there were a lot of things in me that I didn't like about myself. I didn't like a lot of things about me. And for me, as I started my personal growth journey, when I was 18, like it wasn't that comfortable. It was very uncomfortable because I had to effectively slay the dragon. And like we have to do that. We need to like slay the damn dragon. And we've all got our own dragons, right? And the dragon is whatever it is. But we can't keep running away from the proverbial dragon. And there's immense strength that's found when you slay your dragon in your life at this current point of time. Right? That the person you become as you overcome that thing is immeasurable. But 0 to 7 is a very important time because we have things projected on us, right? We absorb good things, we absorb bad things. And like, that's when we really do develop a lot of our limitations. Like, for example, I work with a guy and his parents always used to fight about money. And this guy, when we had a conversation, he really treasured relationships. It was extremely important to him. And he also wanted to make money. And he had a number of businesses. And what would happen is he would go really, really well with his businesses. And then at some point, he would self-sabotage. He would self-destruct. And he would go really, really fantastically. And then boom, he would start to stop doing things. Unconsciously, this is completely outside of awareness. Like it seems like accidents. But it's funny, like most accidents aren't actually accidents. There's things that lead up to it, right? Little tiny things that we're not aware of. It's like that decision to pick up the phone and make a phone call, right? It's like you should make that call to close that sale, to make that money. You should be maintaining that relationship with the customer. That you should be saying, I love you more. That you should put down that fucking cake and like go for a run. It's like the little things stack up to be the big things. And what he did was he'd self-sabotage. And when we did coaching and we really got down to the nuts of it, what we discovered is that he had two values, right? He wanted to make money, so that was very important to him, right? But he also had a value above that value, which was that he wanted to have good relationships in his life, right? And he did. He had a great wife. He had a great relationship with his kids. However, he would self-destruct when it came to money. So when we investigated that and we took a look at what was happening between 0 to 7, 7 to 14. So 0 to 7 is your imprint period, right? You're a sponge. 7 to 14 is your role model. And like during that period of time, there was consistent conflict with his parents in regards to money. And at that little point of time, what we discovered is that his little baby unconscious mind was like, oh shit, money creates bad relationships. Now he's got a belief attached to money. And that belief was negative. It's like money creates bad relationships. So the belief was actually attached to the one above it, right? Relationships. And as a result, anytime he started to make excessive amounts of money, the belief would kick into play that he developed when he was younger, and then he would self-destruct his businesses. Right? So you got to get rid of your beliefs. But let's loop back to the development periods. So 0 to 7 is a period of time where we really can take on board labels and expectations that aren't that healthy for us. So I was 5 when I got diagnosed with ADHD. And like at that point of time, everything changed. Like before that, I was just a kid with a ton of energy that wanted love, that wanted to fit in, that wanted to feel needed. And like that was just me. And I had so much energy. And it's funny like how today we look at energetic kids and we're like, oh my God, they're a handful. It's like, go to the damn park.
There's something wrong with them. They got behaviour issues.
Man, are you serious?
They're ruining my Netflix series.
Yeah, get off the damn couch and take your kids out for a fucking run. Be a good parent. Like seriously. Like if it's all about you, then maybe you shouldn't have been a damn parent, because that's one thing that happens when you do become a parent. It becomes about someone else. Understand me completely crystal clearly right now. I'm not saying that you always put everybody else before your own needs, but it's like, hey, there's little points of time during a child's development that are exceptionally important, right? To developing their character, developing their self-esteem, developing who they will grow into as a beautiful little human being. And like, if we sow the wrong seeds, then that can potentially haunt our children for the rest of their life.
Yeah. And you don't have to go out of your way to completely change your life, do you? If you do what you want to do, then your kid's going to see that, right?
Yeah, kids don't do what we say; they do as we do, right? And like, it's so funny. My son right now, like, he's got a bucket of energy, just like me, and I love it. Like, I couldn't imagine him being a lazy little kid like yours, mate.
Chilled and relaxed, mate.
Hey,
super happy.
Lazy. My son's all over the place, right? He's all over the place, and it's great. Like, we get out, we run around, and like, it's funny because it's extremely noticeable when you stop and observe. Whenever he becomes a little bit naughty or he's climbing on the table and he sits there, it's because he wants some attention. It's like, it's not that they're being naughty. It's just that it's like, hey guys, pay attention to me. And then it's like, come on, okay, let's go play. And it fixes it instantly. But 0 to 7 is very important, right? Because we get these labels and expectations projected on us. And the question is, like, have I got good ones projected onto me at this point in time? Because what happened when I got diagnosed with ADHD is that I then became my label, right? Like, my mum would be like, this is what my mum would do, right? And I'd hear this. Say, Mum, I love you. But one thing you used to do that used to shit me to tears is you would say loud in front of me, it's okay, Todd's got ADHD.
Oh, it's okay.
It's okay, he's got ADHD. Oh, excuse him, he's got ADHD. And like, I'd hear this stuff, right? I'd hear it. And then like, my little mind, I can't even comprehend these things properly. Like, it's not fully conceptualized. I don't understand it properly. Then I'm like, this is a bad thing. I must be a bad person. I must be broken. And then I start to carry this baggage from like 5, 6, 7. I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. And these labels start to like affect everything. And then what happens to me from 0 to 7, 7 to 14, there's this expectation that I am going to do things wrong. What do I do then? I do damn things wrong.
Right. Just to point it out to everyone that we've got those things, imagine the impact that would have putting it more on a pedestal.
You're not wrong. And like, especially with your kids, like, you have to be so careful of like how you present them as well. Like, and like that dig used to get me. That really upset me quite a lot when I heard Mum say so, especially as I got older and I started to associate that ADHD was something that wasn't good. That's when it really started to affect me, right? Because I'd be so embarrassed when my mum would be like, oh, Todd's got ADHD, and like, she'll try to talk under her voice, but I'd still hear it. And like, like it's not cool. And that made me angry. So now I've got anger because I start to feel like I'm betrayed by someone who's supposed to love and care for me, right? And it's like we do these things where we think we're looking after people, but we're really not. And like, the expectation was, and at some point, right, there was this link that was created in my brain that ADHD equals bad behavior, equals doing the wrong things, equals breaking things, equals running wild, right? I got this association, and think about this. How is it possible to get that association unless you noticeably observe it from people around you? Like, you're 6, you're 7. You're not going to make that up by yourself. So I had to like absorb that from somewhere. Where do you absorb that? Your parents, the conversations, how they speak to their friends. And like, if they're talking about your disease or your problem in front of you, it's just like, well,
yeah.
And then you grow into it, right? And I did. I was ADHD. I remember like one time, right? So I remember I went to multiple special education units when I was in primary school. And like, I just used to run amok. I used to hate taking my medication. Like, I'd leave and the kids would look at me like I'm a freak. And then I'd come back and you'd be drugged out. So you're like bombed out. You're just like, ugh, man. And I'd just sit there. And it was so frustrating. So what I used to do is I used to like try to spit the tablets out. I'm serious. And like mum would always be like going, show me, have you swallowed them? And I'd be like, yeah, and I'd be hiding them in the back of because they didn't make me feel good. It's like, that doesn't tell you something, right? Like I'm 7, I'm trying to not take this tablet. Why do you think I'm not trying to take it? It doesn't make me feel good. But then they force it down your throat, or they don't let you do something. Or my mum, she fucking was crushing the medication into poppers and not telling me and saying, did you drink your popper today? I drink a popper and then I'm off my fucking head. I share my popper with my mates and then my mum loses her shit.
Wow.
I know, man, like seriously. But one day
That sounds messed up.
Oh man, it's so fucked. But one day, right, I and this is all about like living up to your expectations, and this I'll come full circle in a minute, so bear with me. Like we end up living up to or exceeding our expectations that are projected upon us, and like I had this expectation that ADHD was like basically this broken, wild, run amok, not listen, hyperactive thing. And I lived up to the expectation. I exceeded the expectation, and it was always like, I am ADHD. Let me show you how far I can push it. And then I started to get significance from the label, right? I was the ADHD kid, and I was going to be the best ADHD kid I could be. Like it's laughable, but as I think about it right now, that actually was like part of the thought process that was happening down there.
It's so true, though.
Hard, man. I got in trouble, and my parents had to come up to the school, and my dad and my mum were in the principal's office, and like once again I heard my mum talking about me. It's like, oh, it's the ADHD, and like deep down it really hurt, right? It really hurt me to my soul to be having someone, and like as boys we crave love from our mums, right? It's a natural thing, and when you don't get that, it's kind of like you feel betrayed, you feel hurt. It's like getting stabbed in the heart. And I heard this thing, and like my mum and dad were in the principal's office, and I'm outside, and I go and I grab the fire hydrant and I pull the fire hose and I walk up to the principal's office and I turn it on and I sprayed up the entire principal's office. I get the principal and like... That was pretty wild, man. But I lived up to my expectation.
Yeah.
Always. And it didn't just stop there, like all the time. And it got worse and worse and worse as I got older. So like for you watching this right now, for you listening, here's what I want to say. You have to be really careful of how you label yourself. And you have to be really careful of, number one, the expectations that you place upon other people. So your projections on them. And really careful, aware, conscious, cognizant of what are people projecting on you, right? That's really important. So let's talk about those two for a second. So let's start with self-identified labels. So you have to be very careful how you identify. And I'm not talking about gender or any of that kind of bullshit. I'm talking about like, are you labeling yourself as the depressed person? Are you labeling yourself as the angry person, right? And you have to be careful, because if the thing that precedes, the thing that comes after your I am is extremely important. You'll see, like, look up
Super
here.
Powerful.
I am unstoppable, right? That's our mantra, right? That's our mantra. So you have to be very careful, because that's a label, and you will live up to your label and all the things that it means to you. Right? So if you're saying, I'm always angry, I am the angry person, I'm the depressed person, I'm too introverted to do this thing, I'm too nervous, I'm too shy, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough. You have to be careful with how you identify and the labels that you give yourself. I can't do this because I didn't go to university. Right? These are beliefs that we're talking about right now, because that's really what your labels become. They become self-fulfilling prophecies, beliefs that keep you stuck. And the question is, when did you decide to put that limitation on yourself? That's the real question. When did you decide that? Because I guarantee there's a point of time where something happened, and then you were like, oh, X equals Y, and boom. Now you've got this thing that acts as a chain or an anchor to pull you down. And an excuse that's always going to be there. And we use it as an excuse. And that excuse protects our ego. It's like, oh, I didn't get success with this thing because of X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And the question is, what's more important, your excuses or your future? Because sometimes we hide behind our excuses, right? We hide behind our labels. I damn well did. I was the ADHD guy. That was me. Until my dad said, stop being a fucking idiot, grow up and get your shit together, right? Stand up straight, be a man. And what that meant was take some damn responsibility, and that changed my life.
Well, it's obviously a very harsh sort of way to tell someone that they got it, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the responsibility of yourself. Like, are you being responsible for your own actions?
It is, man, and that's what my dad did too. It really changed me, right? He said that I'm not broken. First thing he did when I ended up living with him in my teens, and it was like, you're not broken. And he chucked the medication in the bin, and like that was big, changed me.
It's huge,
and it was really interesting what happened then, because see, my mum always expected me to do wrong. And all the people around her and her circles expected me to be broken. They expected me to mess things up. They expected the worst. And I fulfilled their expectation, right? However, if I converse that, right, and I look at the flip side of the coin with my dad expected more from me. He expected more. And it's such a contrasting thing. They all expected the worst. I delivered. Dad expected the best. I delivered most of the time because I had a lot of conditioning up to that point, right? Like I had lots of conditioning, so much. Like it's Pavlovian conditioning 101, right? Ring a bell? If you don't know, Pavlov, he did work with dogs and he brought the food out. And when he rang a bell at the same time as bringing out the food, and the dogs linked the two things together. They're like, oh, bell means food. And it got to the point where he could ring the bell and there'd be no food present at all, and the dogs would start to get really, really hungry and salivate. It's the same. It's called behavioral conditioning. So things happen and they condition a response, so a habit. So let's kind of unpack this to wrap this whole thing up and really, really break this down. So let's talk about labels. So we talk about labels, so self-identifying labels. Let's talk about expectations, because they're extremely important. So number one, if you've got people in your life, right, that aren't necessarily, meeting your expectations, or if you've got people in your life that you want to perform better, i.e. kids, work colleagues, people that work for you, anyone really. Like, it's funny, when I train coaches and I teach them how to go out there and do coaching, I tell them very, very straight down the line, I'm like, if you look at that person sitting across from you and you don't believe that they can produce the result, if you don't believe that they can change, you don't believe that they can make their life what they want it to be, then pass them on to somebody else, because your limiting belief, your limiting perception of them is going to stop them from getting the growth. Extremely important, right? I mentioned last week the study they did with the kids, So they put the two kids, one group of kids, two different substitute teachers, 2 different semesters. One semester with one substitute teacher got told the kids are dumb, really, really dumb, and they're special needs. The kids all got poor grades that semester. Next semester, same kids, different substitute teacher. This time the substitute teacher was told that these kids are extremely intelligent, and all the kids got like A's and B's.
Gives you a whole new perception of walking into that room, right, with those kids.
You expect more.
Yeah.
Once again, people will often raise themselves to the expectation that you have of them. So in respect to how you conduct yourself with other people around you, if you expect the worst of them all the time, believe it, they are going to they're going to facilitate your expectation. They're going to meet your expectation unconsciously, because you sub-communicate it. Whether if you directly, it's not always a direct thing, right? Like 7% of communication is words, and then 93% of how we communicate, or what's perceived about communication, is outside of normal awareness, i.e. the way you say what you say and how you move your body. So like you might be saying, oh yes, you can do it, son, you can do it. But like if your voice is full of doubts, if your body is like got no energy, no conviction, then that's the thing that's going to be communicated, not the damn words that you said. So you got to stand up straight, you got to have conviction, and you have to believe what you're fucking saying, especially if you're giving praise, right? If you're giving praise, you have to give praise from the heart, not from the fucking, just because you think it needs to be said.
Yeah.
Really, really important. So expect more of people around you, Have high expectations. And in respect to that high expectation of people around you, at the same time, don't be attached to the outcome.
Yeah.
Because, when people feel the emotion of hurt. Hurt tends to be when an expectation's not met. So to protect yourself from hurt, you want to learn how to expect the most from people around you. Expect that they can be excellent with their school, excellent with their studies, excellent with their health, excellent with all the things, right? However, don't be attached to the outcome. That way, if it doesn't quite get met, or there's something goes wrong, which is inevitable, you're not going to feel hurt. But you can kind of calibrate, you can adjust, and then you can continue to move forward. Number one. And number two, in regards to expectations, become very, very aware of what are people projecting onto you. Because this isn't something that we often think about. Do you ever think about what people are expecting of you?
No, I used to. Not so much anymore because I just stopped caring, really.
Yeah.
It doesn't add value to my life one bit. It doesn't pay my bills, definitely. So, no.
What you want to do, though, is you want to become very aware. Are people projecting expectations onto me that aren't in my best interest, that don't make me step up and be a better person? Like, for example, I give you a really easy to understand example. Let's say there's someone that has a health goal, right? And they're overweight, their closest 5 friends are all overweight as well. Now they want to go out there and get healthy. Now let's assume that 3 of the 5 friends have also tried to be healthy but failed 3 times each. Okay? So they think it's not possible to actually go out there and achieve this goal. Now let's say that you are extremely excited, you're motivated, you're pumped, you've got this passion, you're like, yes, I'm going to get healthy. If you were to hang around those 3 friends, I guarantee they will project their negativity, their expectation of your failure onto you. And I'm sure it's not going to be them saying, you can't do it, Sally. They're going to do that. But you feel it, right? They don't have enthusiasm. They don't have, there's no excitement there. They just it's just like, and you can feel it. They don't believe that you can do it. And their limiting belief will be projected onto you. Their expectation of your failure in advance is going to get projected onto you, and that's going to sabotage your success because you care about what your friends think. No matter how you want to skin it, we care about what other people think. It's hardwired into our neurology, right? We all have people in our life whom we desire their approval, right? We all do. I do, Bean does, you do. If you're listening to this, you do too. We all have certain people in our lives whose approval we desire. And it's really, really important that we learn how to, number one, dissociate from disapproval, number one, so we can just continue to grow and not be affected by it and bogged down. But number two, also communicate to that, especially if someone who we do desire their approval, if they're always kind of bringing us down, we need to also learn how to communicate the fact that, hey, you need to change the way you communicate with me, motherfucker. But it's such an important thing because you have to realize that other people's expectations of you are not you, right? And it's like, well, who do I want to be? Am I conforming to somebody else's belief? Am I conforming to somebody else's expectations? Am I conforming to somebody else's labels and limitations? Or am I being me? Right? This is the self-awareness game. And self-awareness is king. Nothing beats it. This is what changed me when I was 18. It's what changed me when I was 18, when I was in prison. I realized for so long I'd been proving everybody else around me right by meeting their expectations.
So it'd be pretty important to surround yourself with people that will be picking you up then, right? That are using positive labels rather than always, putting
absolutely.
You down. It's only one slice of cake, one beer. Come on, mate.
Hey, don't talk about those cakes. Absolutely. We have to become aware, right? Because and when we get ourselves around a group of people that just naturally expect more of us, we raise the standard. And this is what we're really talking about right now, right? We're talking about raising our standards.
Most definitely. I've actually got a friend that she's got a couple of boys, and one of the boys is got Down syndrome. All right. But the thing was that she forgot consciously to let him know that he's actually got Down syndrome, and he actually runs around and plays like any other boy. It's absolutely crazy. He's got energy. He learns well. Yes, there's certain things that he's doing a little bit different, but instead of pointing him out and saying, hey, you're doing that wrong, blah, 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 she just treats him like every other kid.
That's it. And that's an exact example, right?
And he shows it.
Honestly, expect everything. Expect the best. And what will happen, you'll be surprised by how often people raise themselves to meet you at that level, right? They'll meet your expectation and blow you away. But once again, you have to really believe it. You have to really expect it. It can't be half-assed because, as I said, 93% of communication is nonverbal. The way you say things, the way you hold your body. So it's not just about getting the words right. It's about you being 100% aligned and congruent with who you are, what you believe, what your expectations are, getting rid of those labels that don't serve you and stepping up and embracing the kind of life that you want. But anyway, look, this episode now has gone on. This is a good little episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Yeah, like we want to just keep in each episode. We just want to talk about little things that obviously go on in our lives, whether it be with a client that kind of comes in with an issue. Each week will be different. Each week will always be about something. It's always going to be relative to personal growth, mindset, about business. There's always going to be business stuff there. But like it's really about you creating the life that you want. And as I said, like on the back of our shirts, it says mindset's everything. And like all these things are really about mindset. Like ditching labels that don't serve you. That's mindset. That's the mind game, baby. That's the inner game. You know, becoming aware of the expectations other people have of you and how you may be negatively conforming to it. That's mindset, baby. That's the inner game. Becoming aware of how you're expecting things of other people that maybe ain't the best, and then correcting that. That's mindset, baby. But when you start to become aware of these things, aware of the labels, aware of the expectations, what happens is you now have got your finger on the pulse of the thing that is going to affect your behavior. And if you really want to get some peak performance, getting conscious and aware and adjusting and correcting our labels and expectations is a critical thing. Yep. But anyway, let's wrap this up. It's been a pleasure chatting to you, talking to you. I'm actually hoping that this video is working because my battery may have been dead. Either way, I think we've got the recording. Anyway, let's wrap this up. It's been a pleasure. We'll speak to you next week. Take care. Once again, hit the like button, hit the share button if you want to share this with people that need to, ditch some negative labels and embrace some empowering expectations. And we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.